Okay, let's just dive right in. I mean, walk down pretty much any high street in the UK, and you are going to see them everywhere. These colorful little devices, big clouds of sweet smelling vapor. Yep, disposable vapes have completely taken the country by storm. But with this huge boom comes a pretty big question. How on earth do you actually choose one, right? If you've ever walked into a vape shop, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just a wall of color, 1,000 different flavors, a dozen different brands. It can feel seriously overwhelming, and that's true whether you're a total newcomer or even a regular user. So, what is the big appeal? Why are these things literally everywhere you look? Well, it all boils down to one simple but really powerful idea: simplicity. There are no messy refills to deal with, no charging cables to lose, no confusing buttons to press. You just open the packet and it works. That's it. And this right here is why they've been such a massive hit, especially for former smokers. I mean, think about those older vape kits, right? With the messy tanks and the coils you had to change, it was a real hassle. Disposables just slice through all of that noise. They offer a super straightforward alternative that just fits right in your pocket. So here's our game plan. We're going to meet the top brands, we'll help you navigate that crazy maze of flavors, we'll figure out what actually matters when you're buying one, and finally, help you find your perfect match. Let's get you from confused to confident. Okay, first things first, the brands. Now, while there are dozens of them out there, a few key players have really managed to build a solid reputation for quality and consistency. Knowing these names is your first big step to making a smart choice. So what's really interesting here is how each brand has kind of carved out its own little space. Elf Bar is probably the one you recognize the most. Think compact, reliable, and great for fruit flavors. Geek Bar is its main rival, often with slightly bolder tastes. Then you've got Lost Mary, who gets a bit more creative with some unusual combos. SKE Crystal, that's the one you grab if you want a longer-lasting battery. And IVG, well, they come from an e-liquid background, so their flavors tend to be a bit more complex. All right, so you've maybe got a brand in mind, but now you're facing the biggest challenge of all, that massive wall of flavors. But don't you worry, we can break this down into a few simple categories to make it way easier. First step, and this one is by far the biggest category, is fruit. It absolutely dominates the market. We're talking refreshing strawberry, mango, watermelon, you name it. And they often come with a cool ice finish. For most people, this is a really safe and great place to start. Next up, for anyone with a serious sweet tooth, we have the dessert category. Now, these are your richer flavors like vanilla custard or caramel. They can be absolutely delicious. But a word of warning, some people find them a little too intense to use all day long. Then you've got your beverage flavors. These try to copy drinks like cola, lemonade, or even energy drinks. To be honest, these can be a little hit or miss. Some are surprisingly accurate, but others, well, they can taste a little bit artificial. Now, the tobacco category. This is really designed for former smokers who are looking for a familiar taste. It's not going to be an exact match for a cigarette, but they're often blended with things like vanilla or caramel to give you a smooth, rich alternative. And finally, we have menthol and mint. This category is all about that clean, crisp sensation. You'll find everything from a really strong, intense menthol blast to a much gentler spearmint. They're a super popular choice, especially when the weather gets warmer. So we've talked brands and we've talked flavors, but let's look past the flashy packaging for a second. What are the technical details that actually matter? Here's your essential 5-point checklist to use before you buy. Okay, don't just look at the shiny box. First up, price. You should be aiming for somewhere in the 4 to 6 pound range for good quality. Second, puff count. Around 600 is pretty standard. Third is nicotine, where 20 milligrams is the UK standard. Fourth, the battery. It really should last just as long as the liquid inside. And finally, something called the throat hit, which is the feeling you get when you inhale. Let's look at a couple of these a bit closer. So let's zoom in on that nicotine strength for a second. In the UK, the standard you're going to see everywhere for disposables is 20 milligrams. Now, it's really important to know that this is quite strong. It's specifically designed to satisfy the cravings of someone who was a regular smoker. So if you smoked less, you might find it a little intense at first. Now, what about that throat hit we mentioned? What does that even mean? Well, it's just the physical feeling you get in the back of your throat when you inhale. A lot of former smokers want a feeling that's similar to a cigarette. If a vape is too harsh, it's just uncomfortable. But if it's too smooth, it might not satisfy that craving. Finding that just right balance is totally a matter of personal preference.
So we've covered the brands, we've broken down the flavors, and we've looked at the technical specs. Let's bring it all together with a simple strategy for finding the one that is absolutely perfect for you.
Here are some really practical tips. First, start with a popular flavor from a trusted brand. I mean, there's a reason they're bestsellers. Also, don't be afraid to ask the staff in the shop for their recommendations. They hear feedback from customers all day long. If the shop has them, use sample bars to try before you buy. And here's a pro tip. Try rotating between 2 or 3 different flavors. That helps you avoid something called palate fatigue, where a flavor starts to taste a bit bland after a while.
So at the end of the day, the main takeaway is this. There is no single best vape out there. It just doesn't exist. What works for one person might be something another person absolutely hates. The huge variety on the market exists for a reason. It's there to cater to all those different tastes. The journey is all about exploration. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Is finding your perfect vape about finding that one ideal product? Or is it actually more about enjoying the process of discovery, of trying new things and figuring out what you truly like along the way? The answer, as we've seen, is going to be different for everyone.